So, welcome everyone to this Animation Mentor webinar. Today we're going to be hearing about Maya and the kind of intro to Maya. If you've never used the software, if you're just thinking about becoming an animator or even just dabbling with it, what is it and what can you do with it? And the host today is going to be Nicole Herr, who is a Maya wizard. And she was one of my mentors when I was a student in Animation Mentor. And I had learned Maya and I've used Maya for about 6 years before I jumped into one of her classes. And in the very first Q&A, she taught me more about constraints than I had ever heard in 6 years. It was just like a huge just knowledge jump of information. And to this day, I still use what she taught me. So you are in very good hands with Nicole here. So I'll let her take over here and jump into the talk. Definitely feel free to ask questions if you have any. And also, before I do that, I forgot I have another announcement. We also have Mars and Tim here today, who are the Animation Mentor Success Team and admissions. Are going to be helping to answer any of your questions if you have any questions about Animation Mentor. And they'll also be staying on here for an extra half hour after the hour to just answer and talk with you if you have any questions. So with that, I'll let Nicole take it and hope you have fun.
All right. Hi, my name is Nicole Herr. I am a supervising character animator. I've worked on so many things over the last 28 years, starting with Space Jam, the original Space Jam. Helped sink the Titanic, helped make Iron Man fly, and dragons and creatures and lots of fun things. And I have been here with Animation Mentor since 2007. So, um, let me and Maya, I've been working in Maya since 1997. So I was one of the original beta testers many, many years ago for this software and have been using it pretty much on every single project that I have animated on for the last, you know, 20 plus years. All right. So Maya is an industry standard software package. And while there are other software packages that are out there, like Unreal Engine, Blender's another one, Unity is another one. There's other packages out there. Pretty much every studio that I have worked at uses Maya as its core software package. So it is one of those software packages that if you're going to end up being an animator, this is one of those software packages that you will become very well acquainted with. Now, you're not going to learn everything about it. It's so huge. You're not going to learn, like, I do not do lighting and hair and all of these other things, but all of that's still done in Maya. So the trick is to know within the software what you need to know to be able to do your job. And that's going to be the same thing no matter what job you have. All right. So the current version of Maya is Maya 2024. Every year it does update. So every year, yeah, there's new tools you have to learn, there's new tricks that you have to learn. But the basic core of Maya is the same no matter what. So with that, let me take you over to my Maya scene, or my Maya file, I should say. All right. So when you open up your Maya, this is generally how I have mine set up. So by default, this is not here. So by default, this is what you will end up seeing. You'll end up seeing the outliner. What the outliner is the outliner is basically every single thing that you have in your Maya scene is going to be shown here in the outliner over on the left-hand side of screen. This big view that I'm moving around right now, that is your viewport. So that's basically where you can physically see what you are manipulating in the software. The channel box that I just closed and opened, this is where you are going to see values. So any object that you put in, you will see numbers populate over there. And then down here at the very bottom, this thing with all the numbers going up on the very bottom, that's your time slider. And that's basically your scene file as you are going through. All right. So this is the basic how Maya is set up. One of the things that I, as an animator, always have open is what's called the graph editor. So let me open that up for you. So up here at the very top, if I click on the word Windows and tear that guy off, under there you see animation editors, tear that guy off. This very first thing is called the graph editor. So as an animator, I have that open all the time, and I'm just going to dock it by just grabbing that top bar and pulling it down until I see a blue line and just drop it in. So as an animator, this is how I have my Maya prepared. All right, I always have it this way. Now, if you have a large monitor, you can make your Maya a lot bigger, but for streaming, I keep it nice and compact. All right. So as an animator, we are always working in the software. Let me back up a little bit. We actually start outside of the software. So before we ever go into the computer, we always walk in with a plan. I want to animate a bouncing ball. Okay, great. I always start with my plan. I don't go to the software first. I have a sheet of paper and I write all over it. Okay. So it's post-it notes are my friends, the whole thing. But I always start on paper first before I ever go to the computer. All right. Um, okay, so my 2025 is the latest. I have 24 on my computer. So, all right, let me take you back over to my computer. All right. So I have my Maya scene open. I've downloaded the latest version of Maya. I'm starting there. Now, where do I begin? So I'm going to animate a bouncing ball. This is generally, as an animator, the very first thing that you will animate. The very first thing I animated when I was in college, the very first thing is going to be a bouncing ball. All right. So I need a ball. In Maya, to get a bouncing ball, to get a ball, all I do is come up here to create in the very top. And I am going to I'm going to create a polygon. So polygon versus NURBS, most studios seem to be using polys now. NURBS are just a smoother surface. But in this case, I'm going to create a ball, which is also called in Maya a sphere. So what that does is, as you can see, now I have a sphere over here in my outliner. And if I want to rename that, all I have to do, double click on the word sphere, and then I can go out here and type in bouncing ball. All right, so now I have a bouncing ball. The other thing is it needs to bounce on something. So I'm going to create a ground for my bouncing ball. So once again, I'm going to come up here to create, and I'm going to go to polygons, and I'm going to create a plane, which is just a flat surface. And I'm going to rename that ground. All right. Now everything's tiny. It's not going to help me. So I need to focus in. So on your keyboard, with an object selected, so I just literally to select an object, I have two options. I can click on it in the outliner, or over here in my viewport, I can click on it over here too. All right. So once I've got the object selected, I can hit the F key on my keyboard, which will focus to what my object is. All right. Now, right now, I'm just in this one view. I need to be able to move things around and be able to see them. All right, so on your keyboard, take you down over there. I am using the Alt key. Sorry, it's a little out of focus. I'm using the Alt key on my keyboard. And on my mouse, I am using the left button. So with the Alt key and the left button both held down, I can rotate around my focused object. If I keep the Alt key down and I click on the right mouse button, I can zoom in and zoom out. All right. And same thing if I, with the middle mouse and the left button, I can zoom it directly in and out. Okay. So the ground plane, I need it to be bigger. It's right inside the ball. I need to actually be able to see it. So this is where I go over to the channel box. Remember when I talked about the channel box a couple minutes ago? So in the channel box, there's a few things. Translate means move things around in space, physically change the position in space. Rotate means rotate the object. And then scale means make it bigger. So I'm going to grab my ground and I'm going to scale this guy up. Let's make it 20. So now I have a ground slicing through. All right, hopefully everybody's following on this one. With this, now I am going to move the ball. All right, now this is where that graph editor becomes very important. I always recommend to newer animators to animate with their graph editor open. The reason why is the graph editor, when you learn how the graph editor works, it is going to show you everything that you need to know about your animation. If it is a character, if it is a bouncing ball, your graph editor is telling you what your software is doing. It will give you a wave file or a curve line. All right. So to animate this, hopefully everybody's following. All right. To animate this bouncing ball, I am going to click on the ball. Now, in this case, I'm clicking on the physical geometry. I'll show you guys a rig later, and show you what a rig looks like. All right. And how I generally use those. But if I am animating this ball, the first thing I want to do is I want to move this ball up. So what I've done is I've selected the ball and I'm clicking on that arrow itself. And I am moving it up. All right. You'll see in the channel box, if you watch that, you'll see that the numbers are sliding up and down. So what that's doing is it's saying this is where in three-dimensional space, the center of this ball is going to be living. So I happen to know it should be 1, and I'm going to set a key. So to set a key, I'm going to slide down here in my very bottom, and you can see that yellow line moving back and forth. That's my time. I'm going to set a key by hitting that. I've got my object selected, and just hit the S key on my keyboard, and you'll see it put a whole bunch of numbers and information down here. So all of these are the same as these. All right. And it's bouncing ball. It needs to move over time. So I'm going to slide forward to frame 30. Slide over to where the number is 30, and I'm just going to hit an S again. And then here, frame 14, just going to grab this guy and translate it up. So now I have, as I slide in my channel box, I get a bouncing ball. All right, I can move it through space however I want, but this is what my graph editor is showing me. All right, the graph editor is showing exactly what that object is doing through space. All right. If I want to add more keys, I can come over here and I'm just going to hit a few more S's, and you see that the curve changed. I'm going to throw in those. Those are all on the ground. And then I'm going to go in about halfway in between. I'm going to pull this guy up. Slide up, slide up, slide up. And I'm just going to do a very tiny little bounce here. Okay. So now I get the ball bouncing with just a few keys, right? So this is the very beginning of, as an animator, this is the very beginning of how we learn. We start with bouncing a ball. Now, with a bouncing ball, you don't want to ease in and ease out at the bottom. Oh, the principles of animation. Ah, there are 12 of them. You are going to learn them. And there are great books that will help you and books that we recommend. One of them is The Illusion of Life, which is the Walt Disney Illusion of Life book. Another really amazing book is the Richard Williams, and I'm not seeing it sitting over there, the Richard Williams book. Wow, help me, Bo. I'm blanking on the name.
Animator survival kit.
Yes, thank you. Like, it's not sitting over there. I don't know where my book is. But yes, both of those are amazing books. If you want to be an animator, I highly recommend both of them. Okay. But one of the things with a bouncing ball is the bouncing ball never eases in and eases out at the bottom. It'll feel soft. You want it to feel like it hits a hard surface. So this is where your graph editor becomes your best friend. So in your graph editor, I can select that curve, and remember that focus key, the F key? I can select that curve and I can hit F, and that'll make that curve big. And then I am going to play with some of these things up here. Each of these will do a different thing. I strongly recommend experiment, have some fun, and experiment. But the first thing I'm going to do is all of these guys on the ground. I'm going to come down here and just highlight all of them. What I'm doing is just middle mouse dragging over all of the things that are on the bottom, and I am going to break those handles. So what breaking of the handles means is it means that the in and the out, I can do with it what I want, and it's not going to affect the other side. Okay. Right now, and I'm going to break these. So there's a button about 2/3 of the way across that looks like a V. I'm going to click on those. I'm going to make it a V, and you see it changed the color. It's now dotted. These guys on the top, they're going to stay flat. So they're going to stay doing one thing. So if I grab that, both sides moves. These guys down here, all of them, actually the whole thing, I'm just going to make them all flat. And how to do that was I selected everything, and then there's a line that's horizontal. Just clicked on that. And then now I can grab these little handles on the ends and I can pull them up. Just super simple. And you see that now at the bottom, each of these now are moving up and creating what will end up in the end looking like a hard bounce. All right, hopefully this is making sense, and hopefully I've not lost you guys. Okay, so I want to see how it looks. Pull that guy up a little harder. All I have to do is down here in the bottom right-hand corner of my scene file, I'm going to hit this little arrow button that looks like a play. I'm going to click on that, and there is my bouncing ball. All right. Hopefully that all makes sense. All right. So the benefit of having that graph editor open is you can, once you get to know your Maya, you can look at the graph editor and go, oh, I have a problem. This is not working for me. This key is not working for me. I can hit the delete button on my keyboard and get rid of it. Or I can undo by going Control Z. All right. But everything is about just making it easy to see what you're doing. All right. So in Maya, I always start with the bouncing ball. All right. Everybody starts with the bouncing ball. All right. And you don't have to start with these spectacular rigs. I strongly recommend don't jump in both feet with both feet and say, I'm going to animate Iron Man. I'm going to animate this a masterpiece. Animation is a building of skills. And everybody starts with the bouncing ball. All right. And then the next skill gets built on that, and the next skill gets built on that. All right. So here at Animation Mentor, let's stop real quick. Here at Animation Mentor, you do have a access to a couple of the Animation Mentor rigs. So I'm actually going to take you over there and show you those. The guys can send the links. But you will have access to the squirrel and the Stewart rig. I do not recommend starting with Stewart. Um, Start with the bouncing ball as I've shown you. Get to know Maya and the tool of Maya. Get to know the interface first. Once you've done that, then go grab the squirrel because the squirrel is a really good, simple rig to begin with. Okay, so let me take you back over to my Maya. All right, now there are two ways that you can bring a character into Maya. All right, everything depends, really, it depends on your computer and how you feel comfortable working. You can import a character in, or you can reference a character in. The importing, every single time you save your scene file, oh, Maya, everything's called a scene file. So, sorry, I just realized I hadn't explained that. Everything in file Maya is called a scene. So when you hear that term, that's what we're talking about. So Maya file is called a scene file. Um, so you can import it in. You can go File up at the very top and Import. And oh, anytime you see the box in Maya, click on the box. It's going to give you options. So generally on the import, generally I'm going to leave all of this alone. You can just then click import. On some things, some options, I'm actually going to alter some of the options. Right now, with just learning Maya, just file open, just make sure it's set to default. Okay. So I can come in and I can click on the squirrel and so I already know where my path is. I've already got it set up. I can come down here and click on import and it'll bring it in. Now, with Maya, a great trick in Maya is you'll see that I have things over here in my bookmarks. If I know that I want to bring something specifically in, let's say I want to grab always from the workshop, which is, I strongly recommend take the workshop. If I know that I want to bring these in, and I'm always going to be going there, if I click on the folder and then left mouse drag it over, now I have a bookmark and I don't have to keep searching for things. All right, trust me, things will get lost on your computer. You want to bookmark it. But for this case, I am just going to go back up to my squirrel, which was here, squirrels, and I'm just going to click import. So now, once it decides to import it, he's really big. This is the squirrel rig. All right, so this is an import. The other way to do it, and this is going to save you hard drive space. So this is actually how most of the studios work, is they reference it in. So it basically does the same thing, but to bring it in that way, you go File, Reference. So halfway down. So the first one's like a third of the way down, the second one's 2/3 of the way down. You'd click on create reference. Same thing. You always want to click on the box, but I would go to the same location, squirrels, click on that, and then hit reference. It's going to do the same thing. It's going to think, and now I have a referenced squirrel. Um, it's basically neither way is right, neither way is wrong. It's just how you choose to work. All right. I personally normally reference um, scene files rather than import. That way, if there's a change on the rig, it gets brought in automatically. All right. If I want to get rid of something like the squirrel, the old one, all I have to do, select it and hit delete. And now I only have the one squirrel in my file. All right. Now, when you are animating with a rig, so this squirrel is called a rig. It's a character, but it's called a rig. One of the things that I do is just out of a habit is I make sure that I can only select these lines. The lines are called curves. So I want to make sure I can only select the lines. Up at the very top of your Maya, under the word playback, audio visualize, you see all of these little boxes. What I do is I turn off all of them. So I click on the little arrow down and I turn them all off. And then I just click on that one little tiny line. That's all I do. So that way, when I highlight and I want to grab things, I can only grab the curves. It just makes my life easier. But you do still have to be careful about how you pick things. All right. So in what I just did was I clicked on the window and I left mouse dragged over everything and it selected everything. Don't do that. Don't do that. Let me show you what it'll do if you do it. Oh, there's my squirrel. And he's now looking a little bit bunny-ish. All right. Instead of highlighting everything, what you are going to want to do is you're going to only want to highlight, you're only going to want to click on the one thing that you intend on moving. That way, you know, and your Maya knows exactly what it's supposed to be doing. Now, anybody who's ever taken one of my class, I'm sure Bo will tell you this. Maya, I say, is the world's worst in-betweener. It does not know what you want it to do. Maya is all math. Um, it is truly a software package that has to be told what to do. All right. So when you are animating, don't just globally move things. Tell Maya what you want it to do. All right. Now, that is going to take practice. And you are going to make some spectacular fails. I did. I've seen some spectacular fails. Um, Understand we have all been there. All right. So as you are animating, do keep that in mind. Now, to make your life a little bit easier on selecting things, one of the things that I will do is I will have two views of the exact same camera. So what you are looking at right now is called a camera. All right, so you're looking through a virtual camera. So what I will do is I will have multiples of the same virtual camera showing. And to do that, you can come over here and just click on these little boxes on the left-hand side of the screen. You get the one big box, which is what you're seeing right now. If I click on the one right below it, the panel layout, I get four boxes and I can come in and change any of these. So I'm going to click on the word panels and I'm going to make it perspective. So now I have two that are doing the same thing. I'm just going to make this guy smaller. I don't need it. And on one of these, I'm going to turn everything off. Show nothing. So show nothing on that one view. And I'm actually going to go show nothing on both of them. On one of them, I'm going to go show, click. So every version of Maya, this is slightly different. You're going to have to figure out for your particular version of Maya where everything is. So show viewport. And on this one, I am going to look for just my curves. So NURBS curves, and that's the rig. Okay, so I've turned everything off, and I'm only showing the curves. In the other one, I'm going to go show viewport. And on this one, I'm going to turn on the polygons. And just out of habit, I also will turn on NURB surfaces. So what this is doing is it's basically taking that character rig and it's breaking it into two pieces. All right. I haven't done any alteration to the rig, just how I'm seeing the rig. All right. Now I can go in and go, you know what? I'm going to have the squirrel bounce. So we go back to that bouncing ball principle, grabbing that big circle on the bottom, setting a key with my S key, going forward to halfway through, and I'm just going to pull it up in space. And I can do the same, bounce that I had before where I go in and I move these guys up and down. So I get my nice happy parabola shape as it's going up and down. And then I get to go in and change all of the rest of the rig. So I can then go into each of these individual things and move them and create that beautiful squash and stretch. All right, so here I'm going to squash them down, set a key, go here, set a key. Here, just sort of zero him out. And I can move these around. I'll show you how to do that in just a second. But I can have him really stretch up. And as he's jumping up and down, I can get in and just really have some fun with him. Okay. So if I want to move something, because you're going to want to move things, I have two places I can do that. I can come in here and I can grab anything in the graph editor and I can shift it around by middle mouse dragging. I get that arrow that only points in one direction. So if I go side to side or say middle mouse drag, I can go up and down and it stays in one direction. Or I can just grab it and just move it around without holding down my shift key. All right, so that's one way I can move it. Or I can come down here and I can hold my shift key down on that time slider and you see it gets little arrows. I can move things around there and you see that it gets affected in the graph editor too. Okay. So Maya it's pretty powerful. It's a pretty powerful software package and you can definitely have some fun and really play with it. But we always start with that bouncing ball and then we build on top of it. All right. So it's not an instantaneous. You're gonna open up Maya and be like, all right, I know where everything else is. Um, in fact, I recently, a few years ago, I learned a software package myself. I had to learn Unreal Engine. And I opened it up and I was like, I have no idea where to start. No clue. Um, we all go through that. All right. Here at Animation Mentor, we want to help you guys learn not only the software, but also the how to use the software well. Okay.
Awesome. Uh, so we do have a few questions here, but
Cool.
before that, I did want to ask a few things, and this is just from my experience having gone through and learning uh, Maya from my brother, who was a 2D artist who had to learn Maya, and the very first day he learned it, he opened it up, looked at it for a minute, closed it down and didn't open it up for 3 days because it was just like, nope,
Yeah.
I'm good. Uh, and also having taught Maya for a few years, some questions that I typically see, and these are maybe some of things that you
Mhm.
hear, all of you might run into as you approach Maya. So one of the big ones is the hotkeys. What hotkeys do you feel are the most useful to you, specifically like the moving ones? And for anyone
Ah,
who doesn't know, hotkeys are the shortcut keys, like the keyboard keys.
yeah. The moving ones that I use, if you so I use W gives translation. So on your keyboard, Doop, the the QWERTY keys, you're looking at those. The W key gives you translation. The E key switches you to rotation, and the R key switches you to scale. I would say those are the ones that I use pretty much all the time. Now, if you have, let's say I'm in this translation and I want to move in one direction, so I hit the W key, I can click on the individual red, blue, or green curve and then move only in that one direction. The other thing that you can do is if you have the object selected, you can also come over to the channel box and play around with like you can physically type numbers in there too. But from a hotkey perspective, the translation W, E for rotation, R for scale, I use those all the time. The other hotkeys that I will use, I use S for setting key. Um, oh, now one of the things that you guys probably saw was I moved things here. I'm just moving it and it automatically set a key. You want to have auto key turned on. So auto key is one of those settings that when I don't have it turned on and I get that perfect, beautiful pose, and then I change frames, I'm like cursing myself because I didn't have auto key on and I lose that perfect, beautiful pose. All right. So down at the bottom right-hand corner of my Maya, you see a little red square with a circle on it. That turns on and off auto key. So if I have that turned on, which I have right now, if I move things, it'll automatically set that key in the graph editor. If I have that turned off, which now it's turned off, and I move things, see how it didn't change things in the graph editor? Yeah, I always have that turned on. It's something that at this point in my career, I just naturally just look at the bottom corner and it's like, yes, it's turned on. I'm good. But to get auto key to work, you have to have a key to begin with. Maya is not the smartest software. So you have to make sure you set a key first on that object and then auto key will kick in as long as it's turned on. All right. The other key that I use all the time is F, which is focus. So if I grab something and I hit F, it'll focus in on that selected object. Um, Control D is duplicate. I use that one a lot, more when I'm setting constraints. Um, so that's a different subject for a ways from now for you guys. But if I want to duplicate something, like I want to duplicate the ground, I just select the object and go Control D, and it will make a copy of that existing thing. Other keys that I'll use the number keys. So 4 will take an object, it'll take everything that I'm looking at and put it in wireframe. 5 will put it back to a solid flat grade. 6 will, if there's a texture, so if this character had a texture on him, which right now I don't have it hooked up, um, it will put the texture onto the character. So it'll show, the orange squirrel texture. And then 7 is actually one as an animator I love. because this goes back into those principles of animation. One of the principles is silhouette. All right. And with the 7 key, what 7 actually does is it turns on all the lights that are in your view. But if you don't have any lights in your view, it will show you the silhouette of your character perfectly. So 7 is one of those that I use all the time. So 4, 5, 6, and 7, I use those all the time. All right. Sometimes if I need to see the wireframe on the character, I actually physically click on that. It's up here on this pull on the viewports, um, yeah, icons. I'm going to honestly strongly recommend click on everything. All right. Just click on everything. Find out what every single thing here in these does so that you are not going, oh, hey, I saw that on somebody's thing. How do I see it too? All right. And same thing, like the first time you open up a rig, move everything. Just move it all. Like find out A, if it's going to work for you, and B, what it does. Because if you didn't know that, like this guy has a jaw that I can open up, if you didn't know that that control did that and you were like, "Oh, how do I open up the jaw?" You wouldn't have that to go from. So when you start on a scene, make sure you just move everything. Every character that you will ever work on, make sure you just move everything.
That's awesome. And then another thing that I see often, and again, this is especially I saw this with my brother who came from a 2D background and jumped
Yeah.
into Maya. And I saw that we had some people who are coming from a 2D background here in the chat. Um, do you recommend using it like a 2D software or rotating the camera?
Um, I do both. Okay. So from a 2D perspective, from an animation perspective, the most important camera is the camera that the audience is going to see. All right. So in this case, I have this main cam. So let me just turn all of this back on this side. So let's say that I have a camera view that my audience is going to see. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to create a new camera. So to do that, go panels, perspective, new. And let's say that my squirrel camera, this is going to be my main squirrel camera right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lock all of this. I do not want to mess up this camera. So first thing, I'm going to rename it. So I'm just going to double click on it. And I fit with like, I like how ImageWorks used to name their things. I don't know if they still do it this way or not, but we used to call it cam main. Um, that is the view that the audience would use. Different studios are going to name things differently. So, but this was what we used to name it. So that camera, I'm going to come over into my graph or into my channel box. I'm going to select everything. So I'm just clicked on the first thing. I'm just middle mouse or sorry. Yeah, middle mouse or left mouse dragging to everything. I'm going to right click on that and I am going to go about 2/3 of the way down. It'll say lock selected. And I'm just going to lock it. So I cannot change that camera at all, no matter what I do. It's locked. So this camera, I always have up. The main camera, this one, will always be there for me to see. This other camera, this guy, is my working view. So on this camera over here, this is where I would go in and move all of my stuff. And what I'm doing is I'm moving it there and then I'm seeing it over in the other view. And for some reason, it did not update that camera. Panels, campaign. Okay. Yeah. Now it should update. Yeah, there it goes. So as I'm animating, I'm always viewing it from this viewport and from this working view. Okay. If you have a lot of desktop space, you can spread things out. Um, on my own personal, I've got enough desktop space. I'll tear this view off by just going panels, tear off copy. Whoops, and that made that huge. Sorry. Did not mean to make that so huge. But it'll tear it off and I'll have that floating as a floating window. So I always have it open.
Awesome. And then we do have some questions here. We have a few people asking, uh, with Maya, there's a bunch of programs available online. Or sorry, plugins available
Plugins, yes.
online. Yeah, there you go. Uh, so do you recommend new users to Maya install plugins?
No.
And if so, there you go. I already got the answer. And do you have any favorite plugins that you would recommend people look into once they have a little bit more experience?
Um, the first plugin, so no new users should learn the software first. Um, always know your software. The big reason why I do not recommend, and even my students, if you ask my current students, they'll tell you, no, Nicole says do not use plugins. The reason I say no to plugins without even having to finish the question is because different studios have different requirements. Many plugins, the studio that you may or may not be working for might say, no, you're not allowed to use that plugin because it might break something that you don't know about. So you want to know your software as a base software first. All right. Now, do I use plugins? Yeah, absolutely. If the studio allows it, if they have plugins they want me to use, yes, I will learn that studio's plugins. But the one plugin that pretty much everybody uses that I do recommend is going to be called Studio Library. So this is the studio library for the one of the Animation Mentor character rigs that we have. Um, Most studios actually have been using Studio Library for probably the last 5 or 6 years. Um, Actually, probably more than that. But Studio Library is one that I would highly recommend. And if you come here to Animation Mentor, when you get into the higher level classes, you're going to end up using it. Um, I highly recommend Studio Library. The other tool, I will warn you on this one, I have seen it break rigs before. So I am very cautious with this one. But there is another plugin called BH Ghost that I actually really like. But I will tell you, I have seen it break rigs. So it's one of those, make sure you save your scene file before you're using tools that are that are unproven for that production pipeline. Um, Other tools, like one of my favorite tools, especially actually it goes into that bouncing ball. One of my favorite tools that I use is actually built into Maya, and it is the motion trail. So the motion trail, what it's going to do is it's going to showcase to you the path of action that your character is actively going through. So if I grab on the squirrel, if I grab this, oh, actually, yeah, let's do the squirrel. If I grab this controller on my animation shelf, guys, do not turn off your shelves. Just leave the default shelves on there, at least until you know what tools you're going to be using. All right, but on the animation shelf, the second button on the left is your motion trail. So if I click on an object and I want to figure out what that object's doing, if I click on that, Maya's going to think for a second and it's going to give me a line. Now, what that line is it is the path of action that that character is going through. So if I come in here and I translate him through space, you'll see that that line is now showcasing the actual path that that character is going through. All right. This is one of my favorite tools in Maya, but it is a memory hog. So with your motion trail, I highly recommend it. But when you are done with it, it's not a turn it off, it's a delete it from your scene file. So if I want to, I'm like, yes, I like what my squirrel is doing. If I want to get rid of it, I can physically click on the motion trail and hit delete on my keyboard and it goes away. I will get my memory back, which is a good thing. Oh, the other thing is Maya is a memory hog at just in general. So you are going to want to do a little bit of preference settings. So under Windows, settings and preferences, you are going to want to click on preferences. So Windows, settings and preferences, click on preferences. And I am going to strongly recommend come down to the undo. It's about what, 4/5 of the way down. Don't have infinite number of undos. Just don't. You're gonna be screaming at your Maya going, why are you so slow? Set it to finite. And you'll note I only do 20. I don't I I when I was working on Stuart Little 2, our computers could not handle more than 10. So we all had our set to 10 for finite. Um, the other thing is if your computer is crashing under settings, under animation, this evaluation mode, I think default is parallel, which works on my computer. If your computer is crashing a lot, try these other two. Hopefully one will work better for you. All right. And always make sure you hit save because otherwise, next time you open a Maya, it'll default down. All right. I'm assuming there are other questions.
Yeah, there's a few more. And just
Okay.
on the crashing thing, another option. So in those preferences, there was the evaluation mode, parallel DG serial. Um, Underneath that, for anyone who has a lot of programs running in the background on their computer, something that can help is turning off GPU override. That's going to help a lot with certain programs and avoid a lot of crashes as well. We have another question here regarding the graph editor. And as you were kind of showing all of the curves, uh, the question is, do you have to clean up all the curves for all of the controls on a character or only those controls that are animated to save time? Can we just ignore the control buttons that we didn't touch?
Well, if you didn't touch something, so like on this case, I never touched the scale. So the scale is flat. One of the things that you can do is you could come in and just highlight, grab all of those and delete them. Generally, I will keep at least one key on something like that because I don't want to run risks later. But yeah, you can either you can ignore it if there's no key there, you can ignore cleaning it up. Personally, I like very clean scene files. Um, so personally, I do clean them up, but it is not a requirement. So, yeah, it's how you are feeling on that shot for that day. So I hate saying this, but it's true. Everything is dependent upon the shot that you are currently working on as to what the rules are going to be for that particular shot. All right. Um, like for me, like my outliner being messy like this, I'm not a huge, oh, another key I use, Control G is group. I'll go in and just create a bunch of empty groups. So I'm in here, I'll just, okay, of course you're not working. Create empty group. You can always do that. I wonder if Maya changed that hotkey. So I'm going to duplicate that a couple times. I'll go in and go characters or chars, cams, prop. I'll go in and create folders and then just drag all of these. So I grab my camera, I'm gonna just middle mouse drag it and drop it on top of cam. The bouncing ball and the squirrel, I'll just throw those under characters and then these grounds, I'll just throw those under props. I like very clean scene files. It's sort of my thing after you've animated shots that have like 300 penguins in them, you find that keeping your outliner organized and folderized is it becomes necessary. So that is one of the other things I will do.
And then we have another question um, that had to do with the channel box.
Yes,
Uh, the person was mentioning that when they look at Maya, they're not seeing the channel box, but this bigger version, which I'm assuming is the attribute editor.
probably.
Is there an easy way to switch back and forth between those and get to what you need? And
Yes.
what is the difference between the two?
Okay, so the attribute editor will tell you, so this is probably, my guess is probably what you're seeing. What the attribute editor is going to tell you is it's going to tell you a lot of the things that the character has. It'll show you the textures, it'll show you how things are hooked up. It'll give you a lot of really amazing information. Most animators don't need that. So what you want is you're going to want to click on the tabs that are vertical on the left on the right-hand side. So modeling toolkit, honestly, I don't use this. I should just get rid of it. I don't use it at all. I'm going to click on the tab that's on the very top, and that's my channel box. So there should be tabs hanging on the side, and you can just click on each of those. Um, Another thing that's really good with your outliner, or sorry, with your Maya, and of course my Maya's misbehaving. Hi, welcome to Maya likes to misbehave. Um, if you want to, let's say I'm got this object and I want to rotate it differently. So I want to rotate it. I don't want to use the big blue circle. I want to use individual curves. I can do that. But if I want to change my options, if I double click on any of these things on the left-hand side, I will get settings and I can change how I am physically manipulating things. So like right now I'm in object space, I can switch to world, I can switch to gimbal, which gets rid of that big circle. Um, I can play around with all of those just by double clicking on those icons. But yeah, to get back to the channel box, look for the tabs on the right-hand side.
Awesome. And just for anyone who's curious about the orientations, essentially they're just ways of re or changing how you
View things.
hold something. So if
Yeah.
I wanted to like have my phone here and just readjust it and like tilt it this way, in this case, it's easy. But if I was holding it like this, a little bit harder. I can't twist it the right way. It's just changing the way your manipulator works with the object.
Yeah. With everything in Maya, just try it. Just move it and go, okay, I don't like how that works. I'm going to do it a different way. Like if you ask Bo how Bo animates versus how I animate, probably similar, but probably there are differences between both of us because we both have different animation life experiences.
And then there was another question here. What are the pros and cons of keying on a specific channel versus pressing S to set a key on everything? I would think that keying on a specific channel would make the graph editors cleaner and also be more efficient.
Yes, but generally in my very first pass of animation, I just key on everything. And then when I go in and I clean up, um, there is no, in my world, there is no such thing as I call it a sacred key. So if something just is not working for me, I just delete it. If a key is not working, it can go away. All right. But for that very first pass, I generally set a key on everything because I want to preserve that specific pose. And then later when I'm in another pass of animation, guys, you don't just go straight ahead. You do layers. It's like peeling an onion. Um, you as you are going forward and continuing with your animation, if you need to move things or delete things, you do. Save and version up often.
That is a hard lesson to learn, but a very crucial one. I wish I had learned that a lot sooner when I was first starting learning animation. Never fall into the habit I did of, I'll save later. I'll
Oh yeah,
save
Maya
later.
Maya
No.
will wait until you get the perfect shot and then just be like, no.
Yeah.
It'll crash on you. Yeah. Or you'll lose power.
Exactly.
Something
Or a
will
cat
happen.
will walk on your keyboard and do something.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Darn kittens.
Yes. So I know technically we're at time here. We've got another quick question here.
Okay.
Um, and regarding saving, which we just talked about, how do you enable autosave in Maya?
You know what? I actually don't use autosave. I make sure I save often. The reason I don't use autosave is I don't want Maya crashing on a save. That's the one thing after years of working in this industry, I don't fully trust my computer to not do something really crazy when I really need it. But to enable autosave, I believe, as I said, I don't use it. It is under the settings and preferences under save. Where is save?
I
Is it
believe it's under Files Projects, if I remember
the
correctly.
files projects? It
Uh,
might be.
Under Preferences. So in Preferences,
Oh, files
Files,
projects. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, here's autosave right here. As you can see, I don't use it. So, but yeah, I guess you would go in and click on this. Um, if you were going to do that, I would strongly recommend probably do the prompt before save. That way, just in case, yeah, just in case. But yeah, I actually don't use autosave. Okay.
awesome. And I would definitely also just because I've had to do tech support with students who had autosave on and didn't turn on the prompt before save. Very good checkbox to have because the last thing you want is to experiment and have fun in Maya. Do weird things to your animation. Go, yeah, that didn't work. Let me just revert back to the old version. But Maya saved in the background without you realizing,
Yeah.
and then you're stuck. So
That
always
right
have that
there.
power.
Yeah, that right there. That's why I don't use autosave.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. I don't trust Maya. The other thing I'm going to recommend, and this is no matter what software you are using, no matter what you're working on. It could be, Excel spreadsheets. Back up your stuff away from your computer. It's the worst thing that could happen is you have been saving on your computer and your computer crashes or you lose your hard drive. Make sure anything that is important to you, save away from your computer. Have a thumb drive, an external hard drive, um, Google Drive, whatever, however you want to do it. Just make sure you save away from your computer.
Huge thanks to you, Nicole, for taking the time to do this. It's fun to be in your class once more. It's always a blast.
It's always
Uh,
fun having you in.
and for everyone here, if you want to keep or to stay here, we do have Mars and Tim who are going to be talking about Animation Mentor and answering any other questions. I'll be here as well. I can answer some more Maya stuff if anyone has some Maya questions. But once again, huge thank you, Nicole, for taking the time to do this and for sharing all of your knowledge once again.
Always, always.
Yay,
It's always
Nicole.
fun. It's always
Thank,
fun.
thank you so much. It was
Thank
awesome.
you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Take care. So Mars and Tim, I'll let you guys take control at this point. You have all the
Sure.
power. And yeah, I'll just kind of fade into the background.
Don't
Cool.
fade.
uh, just got to get that nice fade in the hair. It's going to be so
Yeah,
cool
yeah.
looking.
My whole head is faded.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank everybody for, for watching Nicole. I mean, she's just one of the many fabulous mentors that teach classes for us here
All right.
at Animation Mentor. And so we really, really love her and thank her so much for providing this little sort of introduction to Maya and for folks that, want to learn more about Maya and actually, dive into the software and work with that squirrel character that she was playing around with and make that bouncing ball look beautiful and maybe make a robot arm come in and pick up something and bring it to the other side. These are all the things that we teach in the Maya workshop to prepare you for the actual animation basics course and every course that follows that.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. And just wanted to let you guys know what we do here. We're both student success coaches here at Animation Mentor, and what we do is we help students. We're like academic advisors. We help students figure out what is the best class to start off with. If you're, like Tim was saying, if you're brand new to animation, 3D character animation, the Maya workshop's going to be a great class to start off with. Or maybe you have a little bit of experience already. You can set up a meeting and chat with you and figure out if you're ready for a class beyond the Maya workshop.
Yeah.
And we have workshops in a lot of different areas as well. It's not just Maya. We've got 2D animation, and we've got storyboarding, and all kinds of other areas that we cover as well. So it's nice to have a live resource of somebody, a human that you can talk to and ask questions, about, the best classes to start off with. And that's what we're here for right now. If you do have any questions about how to sign up, what do you do, registration questions, tuition, stuff like
Yeah.
that, applications, how do you apply and stuff like that, let us know. Now's
Yeah.
the time to ask.
Yeah, and the next set of workshops for Maya, or even there's a question on there about Harmony. We Toon Boom Harmony, which is something that a lot of our students will use in our 2D animation workshops. Our next set of workshops, including Maya, is going to be starting on September 23rd, the week of September 23rd. And so there's still plenty of spots left for folks that are looking to learn Maya, or like that one person there that's on the chat that's looking to jump into 2D. And is maybe going to use Toon Boom Harmony or something like that. So all the workshops are going to be kicking off then. So check them out and see what's going on at what do we have it on there? We have the workshops link on there. I was going to put one in there. I didn't have it open. I didn't have it open. You got to be prepared, Tim.
Cool. Yeah. Any questions? Yeah, I can talk a little bit about the application process. Some people like to ask about that. How does that work? We have two 18-month programs that we currently offer here at Animation Mentor. One of them is our 3D character animation program, and also the game animation programs, which is pretty exciting. It's a relatively new one that we've added. We're always expanding our courses and our workshops, and there's an application process. So, kind of like applying to a college or university, you have to submit an application, and you do the same thing here. I think it's a relatively easy application, but there's an important essay question in there that asks, why do you want to become an animator? So that's an important part of the application. We're looking for students who are really serious about this and want to become, professionals in the industry. So when you're filling out that application in there, you got to write your essay and, tell us
your story.
Tell us your story, right? Animation's all about storytelling. So, tell us all about who you are and why you want to do this, and what movies or games inspired you, and where you see yourself in the animation industry. And we take a look at those applications every single day. We get lots of them,
We
and
do.
we want you to become a part of the community. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about how that community part works, Tim.
Yeah, and actually, it's funny because as I'm watching the chat thread go through, and I'm seeing all the places that everybody's from Kenya to Mexico and Greece and Italy and Switzerland, that looks like a class, right?
Right,
Because
exactly.
you could actually be in a class where you're like, where is everybody from? And they're like, from everywhere, right? The United Nations of Animation is kind of like our thing that we always joke about, but it's the truth. And so our community is like that, to where you're going to be able to have a lot of communication with people from around the world that have similar interests, that want to animate. They want to make cartoons for a living. How crazy is that? That's what they want to do. They want to make a video game or something like that. And so this is that place where you find people that are just like you, that want to do that, but then also to be able to pick the brain of people that are already doing that for a living, like Nicole Herr, to actually live inside her noggin and get some of that information out of her is kind of a cool thing. And it's like a cheat code, if you will, if you're into gaming, right? So definitely check out AM if it's something that you want to do and you want to work in this industry, whether it's in games or film or even animation for television. If you want to work, this is probably going to be your best spot to come.
Any questions?
I did see there was a question regarding scholarships.
Yeah, I just saw that too from Prashant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so At this moment, we're not offering any official scholarships, but what I tell students, hey, let's have a conversation. Let's chat with us. We can talk
Yep.
to you a little bit more about tuition and stuff like that. What I tell students, the advice I give is that there is free money out there, but it's not always easy to get. You got to do a
No.
little bit of research.
Gotta
You're not,
communicate with us.
yeah, and there's various scholarships that are out there. Any scholarship that's funded by a government agency, like a federal government, stuff like that, we're not able to accept those, but there are a lot of private or independent scholarships. A lot of those we can accept, but again, you got to chat with us. We can talk with you about tuition, and we have discounts available from time to time
We
as
do.
well. So
Yeah.
it's definitely worthwhile chatting with us about that kind of stuff.
Which is kind of cool because we just talked about Maya, right?
Mhm.
And we got the Maya workshop. But did you know that there's also some sneaky little promo codes rolling around for discounts on the Maya workshop as well? So
Yeah.
reach out to us for that. And so we do have some options for you on that. Jasmine actually had one after finishing the course. What kind of a degree will we get? And so I can tell you this, Jasmine, with our courses, our stuff is all about demo reel, right? So you have to have a really killer demo reel at the end of this. So if you're able to complete all 6 courses within that character animation program, it's about 18 months if you didn't take breaks between terms. Or same thing, if you did the game animation program and did that in 18 months, then you'll earn your certificate of completion at the end of that journey, that 18-month term. But most importantly, you'll leave here with a crazy dynamic demo reel, which is what you're going to need to get a job in the industry, because that's what they're looking for first and foremost is let me see your work. And so that's what we focus on too, is actually having you leave with an amazing demo reel.
It's awesome. Ahmad had a comment in there. I like the installment plan. So yes, we do have interest-free installment plans on our 12-week courses as well. So you don't have to pay the full tuition when you register. You can pay a registration deposit, and we have several different interest-free installment plans for our 12-week courses as well. Those are really helpful for a lot of our students.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead, Bo.
We do have some Maya questions and some animation questions. If you guys want, I could answer some of those.
That
Sure.
would be cool.
Uh,
Yeah.
So there is one question here, which is something that is going to take a while to learn, which is what are the best practices to become good at the animation principles? So this is a wide question, but it really comes down to a few basic things. So to become a good animator, become good at the principles, to understand the principles, it really comes down to time and practice. That's the big thing. The best way you're going to learn is by doing it. Now, the trick to it is as you're doing it, as you're learning the principles, timing, spacing, arcs, appeal, silhouette, all of those important principles, what you want to do is you want to be active in your learning. And this honestly applies to anything. So, a common thing that I see with students, something that I fell into when I was a student, is inactive learning. When you are sitting down and going, I'm going to learn something, I'm going to animate, I'm going to focus on timing, for example. So, you sit down and you start working, but you're not really thinking of why you're doing it or asking questions about what is the purpose of what you're doing. You're just doing it. Think of it like if I'm just drawing and I'm just like looking at my phone, doodling, and then talk to someone, hello, how's it going? Do something else. What did I absorb in that moment? Not much. But if I'm drawing and I'm thinking, okay, why am I doing this line? Why am I creating this shape as I'm drawing? Suddenly, by the end of that quick doodle, I've learned something. I've applied something. So, in terms of the best practices to become a good animator and to become good at the animation principles, is really taking that time to understand why are you doing it. So, the best exercises are the simplest ones: a bouncing ball, an overlapping pendulum, uh, a flour sack assignment. Those very basic things. You don't have to do a big complex acting shot to become a master at something. The most basic thing can be extremely helpful as long as you're thinking, okay, as the ball is bouncing, why is it speeding up here? Answer that. Try to actually have an answer to that versus just It does it because it does, I guess. That's what I've been told. If you can answer that question, you're that much closer to actually becoming proficient and having that become second nature to everything that you do. So I know it's kind of vaguer answer, but that's really the one of the biggest things that can be helpful, not just falling into that. I'm just listening, absorbing, and then I don't have to think about it ever again. You always want to think about things.
Very
Uh,
cool. That's good.
I
Yeah.
see. I think we have a few other questions that let's see. Yeah, it might be for
Yeah.
Mars and Tim there.
Yeah, these are pretty good ones too, because Ahmed is asking how the installment plan works. Like we have to pay the admissions fee, which is $500. So yeah, the character animation courses, these are the 12-week courses that we're talking about, or even the game animation courses. Those are the ones that really have these installment plans associated with them. So when a student registers for the class, Maud is right. You pay the $500 to register for your class, which holds your spot in that class. We have small classes, so these things fill up very, very quickly here at AM. And so once that $500 is put down as their deposit, then they could request a payment plan, which he's mentioning the 3-month payment plan, which you can do. We even have one that's $333 a month, which is also that's one that's set up for 6 months. And so we do have those options available, and we can actually put that in the chat right here for folks to check out. And it's a good option for people that need to break up their payments a little bit. It should help them a little bit. But $500 is the deposit that you put down. The total cost of the class is $2,499 for a 12-week course. And that's, class 1 will be that, class 2 will be that. Look at Mars put one in too. Look at that. We're just dropping them in. Bang, 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 bang. I like it. But yeah, we do offer that for you, Ahmed.
Cool. And let's see. There's a one from Rio here. Since last year,
Yeah.
a lot of animators are struggling finding jobs because of the strikes from Hollywood. What do you think for the future? Is this situation going to get better? Great question. I think it's difficult to know what the future holds. But what I've been telling students who have these concerns is think of the job market kind of like the stock market. The stock market goes up and down, things come down, but usually what comes down must come back up, which is a good thing. And when times are a little bit tough, which they have been, I think that's actually a great time to be studying animation, building up your skills. When things are a little bit down in the job market, I've been talking to a lot of either new students or sometimes even professionals in the industry who are coming to Animation Mentor, and they're like, "Hey, Mars, you know what? Market's been down a little bit. I want to, build my skills up. It's a great time to do that. And so, yeah, I am hopeful that things are going to turn around. We've started seeing some signs of things like that, of things turning around. And like I said, if you look at, the stock market, the job market, things go down sometimes. It definitely happens when things are going down, and in the stock market, they say, hey, that's the time to buy, right?
Yeah.
And, when the job market's down, that's the time to learn, to build your skills. And get ready for when things do turn back up so that you're ready to start applying to hiring studios. So I think that's a great question. It's a valid concern,
Yeah.
something to be aware of. But like I said, I think it's a great time to really upskill and build your demo reel up.
Great tip. Great tip. I got one here from Julietta also. How many students do the courses usually have? Will the follow-ups during, oops, lost that one. Will the follow-ups during learning be personalized? Yeah, a great question, Julietta. So depending on the class, most of our classes are usually going to have anywhere from 9, 10. Some mentors will even take like 11 students in these classes. So that's per mentor. So you're in a small group as you kind of go through the 12-week classes. So that's kind of nice. And that's why we had mentioned about registering for classes. They fill up pretty darn quick because they are small. We have a ton of different schedules to choose from as well. So no matter where you are in the world, we probably have a schedule that's going to fit your time zone as well. Now, as far as for your follow-ups during learning will be personalized for sure. Those are called e-critiques. And so what happens is once you have submitted your homework at the end of the week, which is Sunday by 12 noon Pacific time, once that homework has been submitted, your mentor is going to go ahead and review your work, your shots, your animation shots. They're going to grade you on a scale of 1 to 5. That's how we do our grading. And then they're going to be screen recording themselves as they review your work and actually walking you through your own shot, probably using Sync Sketch over the top of that critique to kind of highlight areas that you might need to improve for the following week, and then you rinse and repeat the next week. So the personalized e-critiques, that's a big part of the learning process here at AM.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Tim.
Yeah.
Prashant's got another good one here. Is it necessary to learn how to rig to become a good animator and get started in animation? Great question. What we see a lot is there's a lot of students that transfer to Animation Mentor from other colleges and universities, many times because they're unable to get a job in the industry, and they turn to us, the pros, and we take a look at their work and say, hey, what's going on? What does your demo reel look like? And many times it's more of a portfolio than a demo reel, where they might have a little bit of modeling, maybe some rigging, animation, some lighting, some visual effects, and their work tends to be really broad, and it can be difficult to find a job when your work's a bit too broad. So to answer your question, Prashant, no, I don't think you need to know how to rig to become a great animator. You can really focus in on 3D character animation. What I tell students is go deep, don't go wide. And really learn animation at a very deep level. And that's I think that's what's very different about our school compared to other animation programs in schools that that cover all those different areas. I do think it's important to kind of know how the 3D production pipeline works, know how modeling flows into rigging and animation, and understand how that pipeline kind of moves, or the assembly line of animation. I think that's really important. But if you're going to choose character animation and that's what you want to specialize in, this is the place to do it.
Great call. Great call. And I'm not going to skip yours, Amelia. We want to get to yours too, but I know Robert. Robert, how difficult is it to gain employment after a certificate is received? Robert, hello. Hope you're doing well. Robert's starting in our fall term, as a matter of fact. He's already registered for class and ready to rock and roll. So yeah, how difficult is it to gain employment after a certificate is received? Remember, it's not so much about this certificate at the end. It's really about the actual work that you're creating by going through these courses. The certificate is cool, but if you're looking, into the industry and getting a job, they're probably going to want to see your reel first, and then maybe go, well, do you have a certificate or a degree or something like that, right? But they're going to look at your work first and foremost when you walk in the door, Robert. And so that is much more important than the actual certificate itself. So work on that. Focus on, what's in front of you as far as for like animation basics and body mechanics, and, keep pushing through this. I know from meeting with you several times, I think you're going to do quite well, not only here at AM, but also in the actual industry as well. So I look forward to seeing you progress through the school, man.
Awesome. It's great that you have that personal relationship with Robert.
He's cool.
Awesome. Amelia's got a good one. This is another good question. Taking a creature animation course is necessary to get a job in the animation industry? I think this is a really great one. I mentioned going deep and not wide, but you can diversify within 3D character animation as well, and I think that can be really helpful for you. What a lot of our students and graduates do, once you complete the full 18-month program, you'll be considered a graduate of Animation Mentor, and that allows you to take advantage of some of our special alumni discounts, where you get a special discount on some of our creature animation courses. And I think, when you add a dog jumping around, or a cheetah running, or a dragon flying to your demo reel, that really stands out to hiring studios. So I think it's something that's very important that you can add. Plus, you can take advantage of a special discount on those courses as well. So we do have a couple of really great creature animation courses, and I highly recommend them. We get a lot of students, or graduates, I should say, that are pretty successful in the industry, and they've definitely added some creatures onto their demo reels.
Very cool. Good. And Claudia had one, which, and I know if you gave this one to Bo, this is like probably just a massive list of movies that,
Right.
It would never end.
it's going to be an absolutely huge list. This I can tell you, you're right. And what's funny is I was talking to a student the other day, and who's really interested in one specific movie, and I go, man, I really hadn't seen this in a long time. So I went back in and watched it again the other day, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. And it's such an old movie, but it's so cool to actually go back and go, wow, man, that thing is revolutionary as far as for what it did. I really, really love that movie so much. I mean, I'm a big Coco fan too, but that movie is so awesome. And I've had so many students, and we've got mentors that, worked on that film. So many students that reference that movie for whatever reason that happens to be. But I really, really love that movie quite a bit. What about you, Bo? Shorten this list too.
If I have to go with my top picks, it's going to be Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs is the cartoon animation that is perfect. Hotel Transylvania, probably Wreck-It Ralph, just because I really love that film, personally. And then a lot of the classics. So thinking of Aladdin, Little Mermaid,
Yeah.
just because even though they're 2D, a lot of those same principles apply to CG. It's all the same. It's interwoven.
What would Nicole
Uh,
say? I wonder.
Interesting.
What?
I
What
have a
would
few.
Nicole
Oh,
say?
Nicole's still here. Okay, Nicole, what would your favorite movie be to analyze and to study?
What?
You know what? I like the classics. It's for me, well, I actually go back even further. I love Harryhausen, and I love actually, with my students, I actually recommend that they go back to like the old classic black and white, like Hitchcock's, and before we really got into this visual effects world where they really had to capture things in camera. That's I send my students back to the classics, the true classics.
Very cool.
But
Yeah.
from animation, Little Mermaid. That was the thing that got me in to this industry, was just when that ship cut through the water. That was it. I was like, oh my gosh, how do I do this for a living?
That's awesome. There was a question kind of buried back in the chat, asking about career resources. So I just wanted to touch on that as well. I feel like maybe it was about or from Julia. Anyway, it was kind of buried back there, but I did see that. So yeah, we offer a lot of career resources here. I think networking is going to be, equally as important as, building a great demo reel. I often tell students, if you don't have the right people to show your demo reel to, it's just a file on your computer, right? So you really need to build a network. I think that's really important. We provide access to some really great premium job boards that are updated all the time. Those are available. We're doing various webinars with visiting artists, sometimes even from recruiters, things like that. And you have access to the whole animation mentor community. You're going to be learning from pros like Nicole who are working in the industry. Those are great connections to have, and people to learn from. So I think that, where I see students having the most success are the ones that are doing really well in their classes, of course, building great demo reels, but also making those connections into the industry so that they know the right people, to show their demo reel to. I also tell students, you can always stand in the front of that hiring animation studio and stand in line and show your demo reel. But if you know somebody and can get a connection into that side door, that can be really helpful too. If you get that introduction and or an invitation from somebody that sometimes a classmate of yours might be working at a studio and they're like, hey, we're looking for a couple new animators. Send me your demo reel and I'll get it to my animation supervisor. Those types of connections can go a really long way too. And you have access to a whole network of artists from around the world to connect with.
I did want to mention, if anyone does have questions for Mars and Tim afterwards, what's the best way that they can reach out to you and get a hold of you? Because honestly, all of these questions that are still in the chat, like feel free to forward them in and like they can still be answered.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know what I always tell students, when we're like, hey, what do Mars and Tim do? I say we're professional responders.
Yeah.
So you can message us a lot of different ways. There's a lot of different ways to get a hold of us. You can simply send an email to admissions@animationmentor.com. That'll go right to me and Tim. You can call us at 877-326-4628. actually remember that number. We check all of the inboxes, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, so you can feel free to send us messages there as well. And once you apply, we're going to be contacting you anyway. So we'll have that, that personal connection like Tim had with Robert. We get to know our students pretty well. We set up appointments. We can show you around the online campus by Zoom. So yeah, lots of different ways to get a hold of us, and yeah, we hope to connect with you guys soon.
Very cool.
Awesome. Yeah. And do you want to answer one more question before we call it here, just to end it on a high note?
Well, Robert was good too. This webinar is very informative, and I can't thank you all enough for this. Animation is my passion. That's pretty cool.
Let's see. Looking at all the questions, we've got so many good ones.
There are
good one for the
yeah.
final
Well,
one.
yeah, Amir, the game animation program was recently added. Are there any plans to other programs or workshops? So I'm wondering if you're talking about plans to create other workshops, or are we talking about payment plans? There's payment plans for sure. We definitely have those, but you never know. Stay tuned, because we're always coming up with new content to add on there, whether it be workshops. Like the game animation program is a brand new program. They've been working on the curriculum for such a long time, and boom, it's just been released recently. And so you never know, yeah, what's going to be coming down the line here soon.
Yeah, definitely stay tuned. We're always developing new workshops, and actually we get that feedback from our community. I remember that's how the 2D workshop came around. All of our former students, past students, current students were like, "Hey, when are you guys going to come out with a 2D class?" So of course we got one of the best Disney animators and designed a 2D class with Jay Jackson. And so yeah, definitely stay tuned. We're always developing new courses, and we hope you guys can be a part of one of them soon.
Nicole Herr with Little Mermaid. Then we go to Jay Jackson, who's worked on, it's just like
right.
Well, Jay Jackson worked on Little Mermaid.
It's like he animated Sebastian, right?
Yeah.
He did. And when I met Jay and I used to sit right next to each other. We were office mates, and they introduced me to one of the guys that worked on the movie that made me want to get into this industry. I was just like, okay, I will happily take him as an office mate.
Yeah. And now people are taking classes with you, Nicole, because you've animated some of their favorite films. So yeah, that's the circle goes around, right?
Yeah,
it really does.
Well, we've reached time. Thank you so much, Mars, Tim, Nicole, for sharing all of your knowledge and for taking the time to hang out here. Nicole, thank you so much for lurking in the background and helping out even right at the end there.
Always.
And thank you everyone for attending this and listening and asking all your questions. It's always nice to see all of you chatting and asking all of these awesome questions. Once again, if you do have more questions, definitely feel free to keep in contact with Mars and Tim. Ask away all the questions that you have. Feel free to send them over. And once again, thank you for attending this, and hope you have a wonderful week.
Thank you, Bo.
It's a pleasure. I love doing these. These are fun. I get to nerd out and meet awesome people. Yay.
These are Bo Pro.
There you go. So thank you everyone, and see you around.
Happy animating.